That's a good question, but I think that it's a given as an entrepreneur that you always strive to continually improve. I think for me, you never want to be complacent. So, and I don't think that anything is ever good enough, because it's like even when you set out, you.
As an entrepreneur, you have to know when to drive and when to stop and ask for directions. You must check your rearview mirror from time to time to see how much progress you've made. You have to talk to those movers and shakers, those dream chasers. You have to know the north side, east side, west side, and south side of Atlanta. You have to follow your dreams at all costs. You have to know the heartbeat of your community.
I want to officially welcome everybody here to Volume 3 of the King Speak series. We're here again on this Saturday with our special guest speaker to the right of me, Mr. Perrin Shannon, who's going to be giving us his knowledge and experience in the world of business. The title of Perrin's speech is Effective Communication in the Business World. Let's give him a round of applause as he welcomes officially to our house, Mr. Perrin Shannon.
Good evening. How's everyone?
Good. How about yourself?
Certainly glad to have this opportunity to speak before you guys. We'll kind of share some thoughts about what it means to be an effective communicator in the business world. How many of you actually work for corporate America? One. And everyone else, you guys are students?
Yeah. It's a nonprofit.
Okay.
Which is corporate too.
Most people, when they think of communication, they think of just the oral or the verbal communication skills. But there are actually written communication skills. Listening is a form of communication. We also have what we call nonverbal communication skills. You know, sometimes your body speaks. The clothes that you wear speaks. So let me ask this question. So why is communication important to you? So as we talk about communication, it means to be able to speak. Okay?
Keeps everything in order.
Keep everything in order.
It was just like running a business. You got to have a report in by 5 o'clock. And it keeps you let your supervisors or whoever know has anything to do with the project, because you may have a timeline or a deadline, so they need to know, both parties need to know what's going on.
Okay.
In that, or basically the biggest one, marriage.
You gotta
have communication on both sides,
right.
because if there's no communication, basically it's disruptive.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Keeping everything in order, keeping everyone abreast of what's going on at all times. I certainly like throwing in the marriage and the family life, but it's not only marriage, but it's parent-children conflicts. They communicate, and as we all know, eventually, during that moment when parents are trying to communicate with children, you cannot be too good, at communication. I'm a member of an organization called Toastmasters, and Toastmasters is an organization where we hone one's leadership and communication skills. And it is so surprising to me when I mention the word Toastmasters and ask so many people, have they heard of the organization? They say no. Or they've heard of the organization as a communication organization, and thus they said, well, I don't want to be a part of that organization because I already know how to communicate. Okay? Just like you go to the library or you buy this book to read, you're reading because you want to be knowledgeable, you're reading because you want to, hone your personal skills. The same holds true for communication. You must continue to work to hone your communication skills. People just simply overestimate really the importance and the beauty of communication skills. This is pretty much depicts what you discussed. You know, having this message, you're being the sender, you're sending that message to the receiver. Throughout this whole process, we have what we call filters. So even as the sender, you are filtering in some of your personal bias, some of your personal beliefs, some of your values, even in the message that you communicate. The same holds true for the receiver. The receiver has some bias as well. But throughout this whole process, as we send that message from the sender to the receiver across what we call communication channels, we have all kinds of barriers. There's always something going on that can take away from that message. You may say, well, okay, Abdul, the boy goes to the store, but as I'm making the statement to you, Julian reaches over and he drops something on the table. So you may not really clearly hear what the message that I'm trying to convey to you. So that's what we have to keep in mind, really, when we look at the communication process. So you have the sender encoding the message, that message goes across this channel, and then we have the receiver decoding the message. Well, what did he say? Okay. And then you want to make certain that you understand what he said based on how he delivered the message, and then based on how you received that message. Remember Mars? Minutes from Mars. Remember from Venus.
Exactly.
Yes, that whole concept. Exactly. Yes, and so let's talk about that. Why is there such a difference in understanding between men and women? What do you think?
I would say, and Ray and I, we heard this at our pastor's previous church, that a lot of times a good example,
I sure was thinking about that too.
Yes, a good example that our pastor and his wife were teaching on a relationship workshop and also message, where men tend to think step-by-step process, as in a waffle. If you were to look at an egg or waffle, we can compartmentalize step by step. We can't get to the next square until we get that first square complete. Women, on the other hand, Minister Trish, his wife, said that they tend to think in a spaghetti string mentality, where as you look in noodles that you would be eating, every strand is connected together. It may not have any meat sauce on it, but again, the strings are all everywhere. They're going everywhere. Yeah.
Really all everywhere, but they don't really connect.
Exactly. Exactly. Until you eat it, at least.
Right.
So that was the example that he gave us at the service, and it really struck with me more thought process behind it. Literally, that's why, again, I may not be able to understand my girlfriend or my mother or even my aunt, because it's like you have to take the different pieces of what they're trying to say and connect it. Versus us, we think like logic, process, and like you cannot get to the next step without completing the first.
Okay. Anyone else kind of share the same views?
Yeah, it kind of seems like maybe men and women have different goals when they're communicating, and so that's why they're like two different approaches. You know,
Give me an example of that when you say we.
I mean, just going off what he's saying, processes. Men thinking more logically minded or process oriented. We're kind of having conversations with the intention of there being like a beginning, middle, and end, like a clear, okay, I'm telling you this because I want you to understand this, and therefore you'll execute this or something. But women are more, more emotional, so they're given the full details of why all these things are happening and how it made them feel, just for you to know. Like it doesn't have to. You don't necessarily have to respond. You don't necessarily have to have an end result. But that their goal is just for you to understand, I guess, where they're coming from. Versus a man who's trying to get you to, get from point A to point B.
But can we also have men who are emotional?
I mean, we're generalizing here.
Yeah, right.
There's definitely some women who are good at.
Right.
process.
Okay. This last one, be sure the receiver is on.
Yes. With your phone. You try to call somebody all day, but like you said, if they're not able to answer on that other end.
And that's a good analogy. That's a good analogy. You know, you're trying to communicate to somebody, but they're tuned out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't really want to hear what you have to say. Boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. What are some of the problems you've encountered in communicating your message?
Differences in channels, you know, like especially now, like in this present time. I know that people who are maybe like in their 40s, 50s, have a lot of trouble like effectively communicating with, you know, like teenagers, and just because of how wide the generation gap is with all the new technology and all this other stuff. So I think that's a big one. You know, maybe a younger person might be completely comfortable, you know, texting, you know, entire conversations, but there's some older people who like don't even like using cell phones and all. So
Yeah.
an example of a channel that's kind of getting in the way.
Like it's easy to push off not having the face-to-face interaction nowadays because we have technology as a scapegoat.
And because of all this technology, we fail to understand different personality traits because we don't get to connect with each other to understand like the different personalities. Oh, maybe I need Julia, I just text you, and we don't get to engage to actually understand, oh, this is how this person is, or this is how the personality of this person is.
Talk to me.
Okay.
Just ask me again.
And an example of it.
Well, yeah, because if you look at it as in generation today, you got more of some of like we know what LOL is or OMG, but now they got more technology where kids are using more initials. I'm like, what does that stand for? And it's like, oh, talk to you later. I didn't even know that. Technology has changed so much that people are texting more because if you go to more restaurants, as if all of us sitting in the restaurant right now, none of us need to text on our phones because we're all in the same area. Everybody at the table got some type of gadget. Is this or iPad is something. Nobody's talking no more. So that's or some of the problems where nobody really is talking no more because you can easily break up. If you want to break up with a girl or a guy, text them. You ain't got to tell them no more in person. No, you don't need to meet me at the parking lot. Shoot, just text them. 25 seconds on the phone and you broke up.
Yeah.
That's true.
So we can see how, you know, emerging technology is actually impacting really the way we communicate and our abilities to communicate. Because from my perspective, when I look at the texting language, you know, it's Morse code, you know.
Literally.
So now we have, in my opinion, kids who really cannot write or communicate. I heard someone mentioned that because of texting, we've lost that connection with family. So someone said, well, the family can be in one room and can say something to the child, but the child doesn't hear. But they can pick up their phone and then text a message to the child, and then the child responds. So that's how crazy, you know, everything has become. They're not spending any time writing or spending any time just verbally expressing themselves. So I really shudder to think, you know, what's going to happen, you know, to our society, you know, some from 20 years from now. Because we're not going to have too many effective communicators. But listening is really the most important communication skill. It really, truly is. And what we'll find that we're impatient as listeners. Have you ever put yourself in the position where you're trying to complete the sentence from someone who's talking to you? Has that ever happened to you?
Well, I'm sorry, what was you saying? I wasn't listening. No, I heard everything. No, I heard everything you said.
Like, because the center, the speaker has the roadmap. The speaker knows exactly what he or she is trying to convey to you. They may do it at a slower pace than you are listening to them. A lot of times when you talk to people, you can see their wheels turning. And so as the listener, you may put yourself in the position, okay, spit it out, get it over, you know, and then you know, finishing that sentence, putting the the punctuation on the sentence for the center. So that really creates a problem in communication. A lot of times it's just best to wait until that person completes his or her sentence, and then you can interject. It's an art. It is something that I certainly personally have had to work on. And I really attribute Toastmasters for really affording me that opportunity for personal growth and development. It has really helped me immensely. I mean, I've done like this. Communication can impact your career path. Okay? And that's what you really need to really truly understand. You know, how effective are you in communicating in the corporate world?
Like I thought it was in
Yes.
Minneapolis, like here.
Yeah.
So to me, those two things are normal. Networking is very important. Relationship, you have to build relationship. People have to believe in you. They have to trust you. Because without relationships, there is no network.
You're right.